In the past few years, TheBrain has enabled Markdown for note formatting. I think this was in version 12 back in 2020, but my memory is a little hazy that far back. Though you can still create headers, bold, and even to-dos by going to the toolbar, Markdown allows you to format your notes without taking your fingers away from the keyboard. As you watch this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you find value. And if you have any questions, if you have something to contribute, or if you want me to review another feature or technique I might be using in TheBrain software, please comment below. To follow along today, all you will need is TheBrain software version 13 or later. Markdown was created in late 2004 by John Gruber with help from Aaron Schwartz. The name Markdown is a play on the name markup language. The reality is that Markdown is a kind of markup language. Markup languages like HTML, hypertext markup language, put text before and or around plain text blocks to tell a user interface how to display them. Markdown has been popular for years in the software engineering and programming world. Most README files in GitHub are written in Markdown. Many wikis now use Markdown. Ulysses, the writing software I use for this video, also uses Markdown. Learning the basics of Markdown for TheBrain might surprise you when you find out it works in many other places. One thing that makes Markdown language so popular now is how lightweight it is. Whereas with modern XHTML, you would need to wrap every bullet in a UL followed by a /UL, you can get away with just a bullet, space, and the actual name of the item you're looking for. To skip the history lesson, jump to the TheBrain and Markdown chapter. A quick aside, programming languages versus query languages versus markup languages. Few people outside the field of software engineering know the difference between programming languages, query languages, and markup languages. There are many other types of languages, but that would need a whole different video. Programming languages include Java and C# and range to either end to C++ and even JavaScript, ECMA script for those in the know, at opposite ends of the spectrum. These are used to make programs, apps, and even entire operating systems. Programming languages are used to create software that does stuff. Query languages are used to pull data from data stores like databases and data structures. For example, SQL, structured query language, usually pronounced as SQL, is used in most relational databases to pull selected information. XPath is used to pull information from an XML-based data structure. As such, many programming languages will have to use a query language to push and pull information to and from various data stores. This brings us to markup languages. Markup languages end up as part of the data that is stored and transmitted. They tell a user interface program, like TheBrain or a browser, how to display the data. The markup informs the program what is a header, what is a bullet, what is bolded, and what is italicized. These visual changes make the resultant information easier for us to consume. TheBrain and Markdown. Getting back to TheBrain and how Markdown is specifically used within, TheBrain has its own twist on Markdown. You can always get to the TheBrain Markdown reference by clicking the question mark icon in the toolbar. Markdown symbols can be triggered on or off from the toolbar as well. Once we've triggered them on, you'll notice that you can see a pound and a 1 here, a pound and a 2 here, a pound and a 3 here, back to a pound and 2. We can also see an escape character, the /. In addition, we can see a lot of the wrappers around links. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back off. Creating headings is one of the most common things to do in a Markdown language. In TheBrain, headings come in 4 sizes based upon the number of hashtags used. The symbol we now refer to as a hashtag, once referred to as a pound sign, and internationally referred to as the number sign, was originally called the octothorpe by its Bell Labs inventor. Using a single hashtag and a space, you have the largest headings, sometimes referred to as an H1 or heading 1. The TheBrain documentation says you can use up to 4 hashtags for an H4. However, headings do work beyond the H4 level, though there will be no visual differences. To use this type of markdown, your cursor needs to be at the beginning of a line or on a new line. All you have to do is put the number of hashtags you want and then add a space directly between the hashtags and the header. This will immediately show the line in question at the appropriate header level. Don't forget, we can collapse information under a header to make the information consumption easier. This works with or without showing the markdown characters. The ability to collapse headings might be a reason to go beyond 4 hashtags. Most document generation software like Microsoft Word, LibreOffice, and Apple Pages have already trained us to create bullet lists and numbered lists. Bullet lists are started with the star and a space. Other software may also allow you to use the dash or other symbols, but I recommend sticking with the star as it is the most universal symbol to start a bulleted list, and the other characters may be used for other purposes. Once you have a line with a bulleted list, leaving that line with a carriage return will continue the list. Tab will indent the bullet list, allowing you to have nested items. A shift tab will outdent the line until it goes to the most left justified. If you no longer wish to continue bullets, hit return, enter again. Numbered lists are almost as easy to start. You start with a number 1 and a period, and add a space. The number will shift to the right just a bit, and the cursor will move over a bit more than a space. After finishing a line, you will need to hit the Enter or Return key to move to the next line. The brain will automatically continue the numbering based upon the level of nesting the line is at. Finally, let's talk about quotes. Quotes are like bullets in numbering in that the effect can be turned on or off on individual lines. Their character combinations for quotes is a greater than symbol and a space. This will indent any text after it. The brain does not really have a unique visual treatment for a quote other than the block indent. I have Markdown view on, so you can still see the greater than. If I remove it, the indent is still there, but you no longer see the greater than symbol. Inline formatting. WordPerfect was my first introduction to markup language back in the 90s. The most common thing I used in the HTML-based markup language was to modify text for bolding, italicizing, and changing to monospaced fonts. Markdown allows for these things as well. Wrap any word in 2 stars before and after the word, and Markdown will make it bold. Changing the double stars to a single star, and you get italic instead. Finally, monospaced fonts are often used to indicate some type of code, usually from a programming language. There are 2 kinds of markup for code blocks. One is inline, and the other is for an entire block of text. The inline version is done when you only want a few words formatted in monospace. For this, a single set of backticks, sometimes referred to as backquotes, is used to surround the targeted words. The block version puts a set of triple backticks before and after the text block to be formatted. By toggling the markup, we can see these backticks go away and reappear. Next, we'll talk about the horizontal rule and a page break. Sometimes you need more than just headers and a list to break up your notes. This is where a horizontal rule can come in. By typing 3 dashes on a blank line, the brain will create a horizontal rule. Note, this does not need you to press the return or enter key. If you continue on to 10 dashes, you'll produce a page break, an excellent visual way to break up your notes that is even stronger than the horizontal rule. Here we can see both the horizontal rule as well as the page break. The brain-specific markdown. There is a reason I recommend using only the star key to create bulleted lists. That is because the brain uses both the dash and the plus keys as part of the to-do list features. Here we can see that a star creates a bullet, a plus creates a completed to-do, and a minus creates a to-do that's yet to be completed. You can see where using these headers allows you to quickly collapse things. The one thing that does not seem to work well in Markdown is tables. I have seen many attempts at creating tables in wikis, Markdown, and other software. This is one of the few times I think it's easier to move your hand from the keyboard and use the mouse. TheBrain version 13 added a significantly improved toolbar-based method of creating tables, and that's what I use. Select Insert from the Note panel toolbar. Select Insert Table, and use the WYSIWYG to determine how large you want the table to be. Remember, you can always add rows and columns later. The resultant table looks much like what you would see in Apple numbers. And we can see there's a lot of features in this new table tool. Now on to my bonus section, using Markdown in a code snippet tool. My favorite part of knowing Markdown is knowing I can use this knowledge in my code snippet tool. This allows me to make my templates even more relevant. We can see the Markdown for my most used template, meetings in general. We can see the Markdown in line. We can see things such as bullets, headers, and to-do items. There is no reason I could not use more heading levels, horizontal breaks, or the Markdown features in these templates. The idea is to put together the format that I want, use it quickly so that I can get to gathering information. In this case, specifically, gathering information on a particular meeting I might be having with a customer company. Thank you for joining us today for the 8th episode of Yazirix. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. If you have any features you'd like to see, comment on those as well. Remember, we have links for the training brain that's used in this video, Discord, Reddit, as well as my Twitter handle. We're going to have a bonus making of episode 008, so watch for it in your YouTube stream. Until next week.